Hi, I'm Bonnie Barker with BonnieBayCrochet.com, and today I want to show you how to crochet the Irish Emeralds cape. For this project, you're going to need a yarn. I'm going to actually make this into a summer version of this original design. I'm going to be using Premier Yarns Cotton Fair. This is not an endorsement for the yarn. This is just what I'm going to be using. I believe I'm going to need 2 to 3 of these. The jury is still out on how many. I will post when this video comes out. You can just look at the bottom of this screen and I'll show you exactly how many of these balls that you will need for this. Each of these has 317 yards. I believe I'm going to need 3. It may only take 2. I will let you know. And the other thing you're going to need, if you want to use another type of yarn, you can pick any kind of yarn that is A2. Let's see if I can show you the label here. That is A2, which is a fine thickness of yarn. And I'm going to be using a size I or 9 or 5.50 millimeter crochet hook. Yes, I know this is larger than what is recommended by these size yarns, but that's what I like to use to get a really nice drape. I also recommend that you have a yarn needle handy to hide the loose threads, and to add to the bottom of this cape when it's completed, I'm going to be using some beads. You're going to need 14 beads. You can use anything you like. I'm just using this for the weight and for the sparkly effect. Some other options, I mean, you can get really decorative. You can use whatever, beads you would like, so please be free to use your creativity here. And I also recommend a pair of scissors for cutting loose ends. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so to begin, we are going to start with our chain. Go ahead and work a slip knot, and we're going to be starting off with 84 chains. So go ahead and chain 84. After chaining 84, we are going to slip stitch to the first chain. Be sure that you do not twist the chain, and go ahead and work a slip stitch in that very first chain, just like so. Okay, now following the pattern, we are to chain 2. This chain does not count as a double crochet, and then we begin by double crocheting, and I'm actually going to double crochet over this loose thread as we go. I want to double crochet in each chain around. Okay, notice that I am just crocheting in the side of the chain. If you prefer to crochet in the back bump, feel free to do that. We will not be working on this chain on the other side again. So whatever you do here is going to be the way it's going to look in the final, once the project is finally completed. So I'm just going to crochet my double crochets all the way around. After I've crocheted all the way around, I'm just going to join to the top of the first double crochet with a slip stitch, just like that. Okay, so now we're ready for row number 2. We're going to chain 3. We're going to skip the first 2 stitches. 1, 2. Remember now this chain does not count as a stitch. And we're going to front post treble crochet in the next 2. Now if you've never done a post stitch, instead of going in through the top, you're just giving it a belt by going around the stitch like this, and then completing the treble crochet as you normally would. Now we're going to work in front of these 2 stitches that we just worked, and we're going to treble crochet around the 2 skipped stitches like this. Again, front post treble, just wrapping the hook around, giving it a belt with that treble crochet. Okay, after we complete those 2 treble crochets, we are actually going to do something a little different. We're going to work in between these 2 stitches, and by just going in the hole right here, and we're going to be adding 2 stitches to this round. We're going to do 2 or complete 2 double crochets in that space, just like that. Okay, now we're going to repeat that all the way around. We're going to skip the next 2 stitches, and we're going to work front post treble crochets in the next 2 stitches, working in front of the stitches we just completed. We're going to front post treble in the next, or the 2 stitches that we skipped. And just like we did before, we're going to work 2 double crochets in between this stitch and the next stitch. Let me go ahead and give you a view of what we're doing here. So after every 4 stitches with this cabling stitching that we're doing here, we're actually adding 2 stitches to the round. Okay, so you're going to crochet these 4 stitches like I showed you, and then add 2 stitches working in between these 2 stitches. The last stitch, actually not the last stitch worked, but it's actually the first stitch worked, or second stitch. Well, anyway, go ahead and work 2 stitches in between. I'll do this one more time for you, just so that any confusion might just completely go away. Skip the next 2 stitches, front post treble crochet, the next 2, now working in front of the last 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in the 2 skipped stitches. And now we're going to add 2 stitches by working in between this stitch of the cable and the next stitch. We're not going to work that next stitch, we're just working before that next stitch. Okay, so go ahead and work that all the way around. And then don't forget to work those last 2 double crochets in between that cable and the next stitch, which happens to be the turning chain, which again does not count as a stitch in our stitch count. At this point, you should have 126 stitches plus the turning chain. And we're going to join with a slip stitch to the top of that first treble crochet of the round. Okay, now we're going to turn. It's very important that you turn at this point. Okay, we are going to chain 2. Now we're going to be increasing 2 stitches in between each repeat as we go around. We're going to work 2 double crochets in each double crochet that we worked in between those stitches. So we're not working in between stitches now, we're just working in the tops of the stitches for these increases on those two double crochets that you find in between. And before we go any further, let me say one more thing. Just to be careful, if you came out evenly with your stitch count, you probably are fine. But you may want to just go around and make sure that you have those 2 stitches in between each beginning cable. Okay? It's very important that you have 126 stitches, or else the stitch count as we go forward is going to be off. Okay, so after we've made 2 double crochets in those first double crochets, then we're going to do 4 back post double crochets over that cable. 1. Now remember, these are back post double crochets, not trebles. Okay, I'm not trying to be confusing by mixing it up, but it just has a lot to do with the height of these stitches as you crochet them along. Okay, so that is going to be our repeat all the way around. I'll do it for you one more time. We're going to do 2 double crochets in the next double crochet, and those are in the next 2 double crochets rather, and that is working through the top loops like you normally would. And then when you get to the 4 stitches of the cable, you work 4 back post double crochets, 1 in each of those what they were front post trebles when we worked them on the other side. So 4 back post double crochets. So go ahead and work that all the way around. At the end of row 3, you go ahead and join to the top of the first double crochet of the round, and you should have at this point 168 stitches. It's very important that you have that many stitches, that you've increased as we've gone along. So you might want to just give a quick visual check all the way around, because otherwise you know how painful ripping out is if you didn't have the right number of stitches. Okay, so now we're going to turn, and this is row 4 now, and this officially begins the Celtic weave in the most traditional sense. Okay, so we're going to chain, let's see, 3, and we are going to be doing the same thing all the way around. And as you can see, you've increased these 4 stitches in between these cables, and this round is going to bring it all together. Okay, so we skip the first 2 stitches, and we're going to front post treble crochet. Whoops, let's try that one again. We're going to front post treble crochet in the next 2 stitches. This will be working over that cable at first. Now, working in front of the last 2 stitches you just made, we're going to front post treble in the 2 stitches that we just skipped. Okay, make sure you get all 4 of those stitches. Now, working in those 4 double crochets, which were our increased stitches, we're going to do the same thing. Skip the next 2 stitches, front post treble crochet in the next 2 stitches, working in front of these last 2 stitches, front post treble crochet in the next 2 stitches. And we're going to do this all the way around over all of 168 stitches. Okay, I'll do this for you again. Skip the next 2, front post treble in the next 2 stitches, working in front of the last 2 stitches, front post treble in the 2 skipped stitches. Okay, so go ahead and do this all the way around. At the end of round 4, we're going to join with a slip stitch to the first treble, front post treble of the round, or the first stitch of the round. Okay, now we're going to turn, and with the back side facing us, we're going to work row number 5. We're going to chain 3. Okay, now to begin this row, we're going to skip the first 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, or the first the first cluster set of 4 stitches. And then we're going to back post treble crochet in the next 2 stitches. This is working the Celtic weave in the round. Okay, when you work this normally without being in the round, it's slightly different. So if any of you have worked this stitch, let's say in a blanket where you're working it in rows, it's worked just slightly differently in that instead of skipping, or instead of just working the first 2 stitches, you're going to skip the first 4 stitches. And then so I've worked the next 2 stitches. Now we're going to go back and we're going to work the last 2 stitches skipped, which were these 2. We're going to work back post treble, and they are going to cross as seen in the front. So I'm going to reach around. Let me show you. I'm going to reach around towards the front, and the first stitch that we're going to go around is right here. Okay, it's the one furthest to the right. And then we work our back post treble crochets. I'm going to do this a couple times for you. Okay, and then we do the next stitch, which I didn't give you a very good view of. But what I wanted to say next is that make sure you use these 2 fingers, the tall man and the thumbkin, to help you find these 2 stitches that are down here. Okay, so now we're going to work the next 4 stitches. We're going to skip the next 2, which are these 2 stitches, and we're going to back post treble in the next 2 stitches. This is probably the most difficult round of the project because of working from behind. Okay, now I'm going to go back and I'm going to find this stitch, I'm going to work a treble crochet around the 2 stitches that we skipped. And the next one will be this stitch right here. Okay, I'm going to do that again after we complete those 4. Skip the next 2 stitches, which are these 2, and you're going to go for the next 2, and these are always going to be leaning the opposite direction of these 2. Working back post treble, and then working in front of these 2 stitches as seen from the front side. I'm going to bring my hook right around like this, and I'll show you what that looks like from the other side. Okay, those 2. So we're going to go ahead and work that all the way around. Let me show you what it should look like with the front side facing. See how these are crossing and intertwined there? That's what you're going for. That if your back, or the front side rather, looks like this is the opposite of where we're working now. If it looks like that, you're doing well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish this round and show you the connection. Okay, I've come all the way around, and I wanted to show you the back side because I just wanted to make sure that you understood what I'm going to do next. I'm going to be working back post trebles, and I'm going to work these 2, and then I'm going to work these 2, and then I'm going to connect into the top. I just wanted to show you what it looks like because it's a little bit off-centered, and that's normal. So as I come around for these last 2, I'm going to skip these 2 and back post treble in the next 2. Now working in front of these 2 as seen from the front side, I'm going to come around and do back post trebles in those last 2 stitches. Okay, now they've all been worked. Now I'm going to work a slip stitch in the top of that first treble of the round. And let's turn around and look, and you can get a visual check to see that it looks consistent. If you see any gaps, that you probably haven't done all the stitches. So that is completed. And I want you also to notice that by doing it this way in the round, it's a little bit, off-centered, but it hides the turning chain very well so that you don't, here's the turning chain here, which people really are not going to notice much, but it just completely disappears when you get to this section. So this is what your collar should look like after that row. Okay, so we just finished round number 5. Okay, don't worry about this curling up. The last row we're going to work is going to take care of that. Okay, so after working that, you are going to turn to the front side, and for the next 4 rows, rows 6, 7, 8, and 9, we are simply going to repeat rows 4 and 5 that we've already worked. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to chain 3, and we're going to skip the 4 first 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches, and we're going to go towards, or let me look at another way. Here's like a cross with 4 stitches. You just go to the next set of 4 stitches to begin. So we're going to do 2 front post treble crochets. Now working in front of these 2, we're going to work on these 2 stitches that are kind of hidden there a little bit with the 2 stitches, the last 2 that we skipped. We skipped 4, but just the last 2 that we skipped are the 2 that we go back and get. Now these 2, the first 2 that we skipped, will be amongst the last 4 stitches that are worked once we come around and join. Just as a little reminder. Okay, so we're going to do that all the way around. We're going to skip the next 2 stitches that are hidden there, or it's underneath, and we're going to front post treble in the next 2 stitches, working in front of these 2 stitches. Go ahead and front post treble in those 2 stitches that are hiding there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and work this all the way around, and I will show you the last 4 stitches. Okay, that brings us around to the last 4 stitches, and I'm going to go ahead and work these so that you can kind of get used to what it looks like. And then working in front of these 2 stitches, we're going to do the 2 stitches that are kind of hidden back there. Remember to use the fingers of your non-dominant hand to help you find these stitches. That really does make it a much better journey. Okay, and then after I've done those, it's time to just join to the first treble crochet of the round, just like that. Okay, now we're going to repeat row 5. Okay, so this is technically row number 7, and go ahead and chain 3. We are going to skip 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, or the first set of crossed stitches here, and then we're going to back post treble in the next 2 stitches. Okay, after we get those 2 stitches worked, working in front of these stitches as seen from this side, from the front side, going to go in front of those, and then we're going to treble crochet around each of the 2 stitches that are closest, or the last 2 stitches of the 4 that were skipped. Okay, now we're going to just continue this. Well, actually, from this point on, we're going to skip the next 2, 1, 2, and then back post treble in the next 2 stitches. And working in front of these last 2 stitches as seen from the front side, go ahead and back post treble in those 2 hidden stitches that were just skipped. Okay, so let me show you what it's going to look like from the front side. As you can see, we're getting more depth, and you can see the Celtic knot effect as the stitches literally are woven in and amongst themselves. So go ahead and repeat round number, this would be round number 7. Okay, this is a repeat of round number 5. Okay, as we come around to the last 2 stitches, just to show you what that would look like, here's the stitch that we're going to connect with. Okay, so we're going to skip, let me try it back up here. So we're going to skip the next 2 stitches. We're going to back post double crochet. These are the 2 stitches that we skipped at the very beginning of the round. So we're going to go ahead and do these 2 next. And then after that, we're going to work in front of these stitches as seen from the front, and we're going to come back and get these remaining 2 stitches that are kind of hidden in there. And then we're going to join with a slip stitch to that first treble, back post treble. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn, and I'll show you what your collar should look like at this point. Okay, we're getting very close to being finished with this. Okay, so that ends row number 7. So now we need to repeat rows 4 and 5, like I just showed you, one more time, and then after that repeat row 4 again. So we're going to do 1 row with the front side facing, another with the back side facing, and then a third with the front side facing. So go ahead and do those 3 rounds, and once you finish that, I'll show you the round that will discontinue the Celtic weave. Okay, after completing the 10 rows, this is what the collar should look like. I'll go ahead and hold this up so you can see what I have here. Okay, now if your collar is curving a little bit, like this section is here, This next row that we're going to work should take care of this. Okay, this is going to be row number 11. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn, and I'm going to have the back side facing. Okay, now we're only going to chain 2 this time. 1, 2, and we're going to work back post double crochets, not treble, but back post double crochets around each stitch as we go along. So we're just going to work them straight. We're not going to be crossing anything, just as they come along. Now as you do this, make sure that you do 4 for every grouping of 4 stitches. Okay, so don't want to leave any of these stitches out. Okay, now our stitch count at the end of this row should remain constant, and for those of you who are new to reading crochet patterns, that's one thing to keep in mind. If you do not see a new number for the stitch count, that's because it has not changed. So our stitch count has not changed since row 3, where we had 168 stitches. So that's going to remain constant through this row as well. Okay, so go ahead and work these back post double crochets, and when you do that, this is what's going to happen. It's going to make it look like this along that edge, and it's going to even things out quite a bit. After this row, we will begin the lace portion. So I'll go ahead and work this around, and I'll show you the connection. At the end of round 11, just slip stitch to the top of that first back post double crochet at the beginning of the round. Let's go ahead and turn, and this is the completed collar. I just wanted you to take a look to see where we are. Now if you're having difficulty counting the rows while you're working on this, I guess I could have shown you this earlier, but I'll show it to you now. Obviously this is 1 row, 2, and 3, and then we can count the parts where the stitches cross. So this would be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then the 10, and then the last row 11 right down here. Okay, now we're going to move on to the lace portion. And for this section, as the pattern says, the right side will be facing you for all the rounds. Do not turn at the end of any of the rows, or actually any of the rounds. The treble crochets will be worked with the same side facing each round. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Now as we begin round 1 of the lace, we're going to chain 3. We are going to skip the first 2 stitches, and we're going to front post treble in the next 2. We are beginning a column of cables here that we will continue. Now working in front of these last 2 stitches we just worked, we're going to front post treble in the 2 stitches that we just skipped. Okay, now we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We are going to skip the next 4 stitches, which is the next crossed section here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to single crochet in between that last stitch that we just skipped and the next stitch. So go ahead and single crochet there. After that, we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Skip the next 4 stitches, and then we're going to skip 2 more stitches so that we can form another cable here. So we actually skip a total of 6 stitches when we go to do this. But the way the pattern is written, we skip 4 and then we skip 2 more. It's basically doing the same thing. It just makes it a little bit easier to write with the repeat. Now working in front of these last 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in the last 2 stitches that we just skipped. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and do that again. That is the repeat. So we chain 5, we skip the next 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, single crochet in between that last stitch and the next stitch, like so. Then we're going to chain 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to skip the next 4 stitches, and then we skip 2 more so that we can form the cable. Front post treble in the next 2 stitches. Now working in front of the last 2 stitches worked, we're going to front post treble in the last 2 stitches that we skipped. Okay. So basically what we're doing here, we're forming like here and here, and here is actually called a 4-stitch post cable or 4-stitch cable. Okay, so I'm going to just go ahead and continue that around. I'll do it one more time for you. Chain 5, skip the next 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Single crochet in between those 2 double crochets. Chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Skip the next 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then skip 2 more. 1, 2. And then it's time to make that cable. Front post treble in those 2 stitches, and working in front of the 2 stitches we just worked, go ahead and front post treble in the last 2 stitches that were skipped. Okay, so go ahead and work this all around the bottom of the cape. Okay, at the end of round 1 of the lace, we're just going to join with a slip stitch to the top of that very first treble crochet of the row. Okay, now to start round number 2, we're going to go ahead and chain 3, and we're going to front post treble. I'm going to go ahead and wrap that twice. Front post treble in the first 4 stitches. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to single crochet in this next chain space. We're going to chain 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to single crochet in the next chain space. And so that is the repeat. I'll go ahead and wait a minute, one more thing. Chain 5, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I'm going to show you that repeat one more time for round number 2, and that would be front post treble in the next 4 stitches. These are the 4 stitches that make up the cable that's going to be cascading down. Okay, and that's going to be followed by chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Single crochet in the next chain space. Chain 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then single crochet in that next chain. And then 5 more chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then front post treble crochet in the next 4 stitches. So it begins all over again. So that is going to be the repeat. Let's see if I can find this stitch. There you go. It's a little trickier for me working these post stitches from the front side for some reason when I do these cables, but it's very doable though. Okay, so let me stop and just show you what that repeat looks like. Okay, it will look better as we go along and add more connections to that. At the end of round 2, we're going to join with a slip stitch after that last chain 5 in the top of that first front post treble that was worked. Okay, so for round 3, we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and just like we did in the first round, we're going to skip the first 2 stitches. This is just crossing of the cable. Front post treble in the next 2 stitches. Working in front of those last 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble crochet in the next 2 stitches. I'm sorry, in the 2 stitches that were skipped. After crossing the cables, we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to single crochet in this chain space right here, and then after that we're going to chain, let's see, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're going to single crochet in the next chain space, just like that. And then we're going to chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 again, and single crochet in that next chain space, and then we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then that brings us back to the repeat again. And I'll do that repeat with you one more time. We're going to skip 2 stitches of the cable, and we're going to front post treble in the next 2 stitches, working in front of the last 2 stitches. Go ahead and front post treble in the 2 stitches that we skipped. Then we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to single crochet in the next chain space. We're going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and single crochet in the next chain space, and chain 5 more, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and single crochet in the next chain space, and then we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. And if it helps, you're going to chain 3 before and after every time you do the cable. So for the cable, we're going to skip 2, front post treble crochet in the next 2 stitches, working in front of those last 2 stitches. Go ahead and front post treble in the 2 skipped stitches. Okay, and that is your repeat. So go ahead and work that all the way around, and then we're going to end with a chain 3 and a slip stitch to the top of that very first treble crochet of the row. Okay, now we move on to row number 4. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. We're going to front post treble crochet in each of those post stitches. Oops, let's go ahead and try that again. We didn't get, there you go, didn't get low enough. There we go. Okay, after we've done that, it's time to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're going to skip this next chain space. Okay, we're going to skip this space, and we're going to single crochet in the next chain space, and then after we do that, we chain 5, and then we're going to single crochet in the next chain space, and then we chain 5 again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're going to skip the next chain space, and then we're going to work 4 treble crochets or front post trebles in the next 4 stitches. Let me try that one again. It's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so this is the second repeat that I'm showing you. Chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Skip the first chain space, and in the next chain space we single crochet. Chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Single crochet in the next chain space, and then we single crochet, chain 5 more, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Skip this last chain of the repeat, and then back to our front post treble crochets on that cable. Okay, so this is what this is starting to look like. All right, so go ahead and finish that all the way around. Okay, round 4 ends with a chain 5 and a slip stitch to the top of that first treble, front post treble of the round. Now we start row number 5. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and we are going to cross the cables for this round. We're going to skip the first 2 stitches. We're going to front post treble crochet in the next 2, working in front of the last 2 stitches that we just worked. We're going to front post treble crochet in the 2 stitches that were skipped. Now we are going to chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're going to skip the next chain space and we're going to single crochet in the next chain space. Now we're going to chain 7 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're going to skip the next chain space here, and we are going to skip the next the next 2 post stitches, and we're going to front post treble in the next 2 stitches. So we're actually starting our second repeat of what we're going to be doing in this round. And then, working in front of these last 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in the 2 stitches that we skipped. Okay, so we're going to do that again. So we've already done our cable. Chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Skip the next chain space, single crochet in the next chain space, chain 7 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Skip the next chain space here, and then we're on to skipping the next 2 stitches to form our next cable. So I'll go ahead and do that cable, which is the beginning of our third repeat. Front post treble in those 2 stitches. Working in front of those 2 stitches, we're going to front post cable in the 2 stitches that we skipped. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at that repeat. Okay, so at the end of this repeat, you should have like a diamond formed here. Okay, so go ahead and repeat that all the way around. This again is round number 5. Okay, this is what you should have after completing round number 5. Okay, notice that you have a nice little diamond here in the lace part, and then you have the cables in between there. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to repeat rounds 2 through 5 3 more times, and then we're going to repeat round 2, 3, and 4 one more time. So go ahead and do that. This would be for round 6 through 20, and then when you come back, we will do the last round together. Okay, I am about to attach my last ball of yarn for this project, and before I do that, I wanted to show you how to load the beads that I'm going to be using. I've decided to try these green beads instead of the original ones that I may have showed you at the beginning, but actually you can use whatever beads you'd like. I just think these might match the project better. So I'm going to using a beading needle, which has a very interesting eye. It's very easy to thread, just like this, and we would just thread each bead on like this, and this really helps it to gently put the bead onto the yarn. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and load the beads that I need. For this project, you will need a total of 14 beads because there are 14 cables where the bead will be. Now, you do not need a curved You do not need a curved needle. They do make these needles in straight shape. Don't have to be curved for this project. It just so happens that this is the only one that I have in my stash. Okay, I actually prefer a straight needle, but anyway, say go ahead, and we're going to go ahead and load 14 of these beads, or whatever beads that you'd like to complete your project. So go ahead and do that now. Okay, after I finish loading those 14 beads onto the thread or onto this yarn that you're using, I can just go ahead and take this needle off, and I'll just reconnect this strand to my project and just continue crocheting as normal, and I'll just continue to push these beads back, okay, until I get to those rows. I'm only about 2 rows away from needing to add these. So just go ahead and do that. If you don't want to do beads at the ends of the cape, that's totally fine, but I think with the cotton material, it does help to give a little bit of weight and a little bit of a shimmer to the final product. Okay, now we are ready to begin round 21, which is the last round on the cape portion of this project. Okay, now if you haven't already done so, you need to make sure that your beads are loaded on to the yarn before we begin this round. Okay, so go ahead and load 14 beads if you haven't done it at the last change of that last scan. Okay, so I'm just going to assume that you've already got those loaded on. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and begin. This is done a little differently from the other rounds, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to chain 1, and we're going to work 6 treble crochets, but we're going to work them in between. Here's the center of this cable. We're going to work them in the center. First, we're going to work 3. That's 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now I'm going to go find where my beads are, and I'm going to bring a few of these up closer to where my yarn is. Okay, so I'm going to just going to slide 1 bead like this, and I'm going to do 1 chain, and that's all you need to do to add that bead on. And then we're going to do 3 more treble crochets in that same place. 1, 2, let me try that last one again. I have my beads sliding up on me here. 3. So we have 3, then we chain the bead, and then we do 3 more. Okay, after that we're going to chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're going to skip the next chain, and then we're going to single crochet in that middle chain, and then we're going to chain 7 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we're going to skip the next chain, and we're going to work 3 treble crochets. This is splitting the cable in 2. It's worked between the 2nd and the 3rd stitch. Okay, so now that I have 3 stitches, and I'm going to slide the bead right there, give it a chain, and then I'm going to do 3 more treble crochets right in that same place. For some reason I keep having trouble with that last treble crochet. Okay, and so that's what you're going to have there. Now I'm going to chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. My beads keep sliding up, so I have to slide them back. Okay, and now we're going to skip the next chain, single crochet in the next chain, and then 7 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Skip the next chain, and then we'll be making another 3 trebles, chain 1 with a bead, and then 3 trebles right in that center. So that is the repeat all the way around. Okay, so go ahead and do that yarn, or do that row all the way around. We're going to end the round by, after doing our chain 7 and joining with the slip stitch to that very first treble crochet of the round. And we're going to go ahead and fasten it off, give it a chain, little tug, and get your scissors, leave a nice long strand so that we can hide that with our yarn needle. Okay, so that is the end of this project, but let me show you one more thing on how to hide some loose strands quickly. Okay, I'm going to use my yarn needle, I'm going to thread the yarn, and with the back side facing you, I'm going to run this stitch down into a couple of stitches here. There's no hard rules about how to do this. You just want to hide the loose strand as easily as possible. I'm going to actually run it under these 6 stitches here. Okay, and give that a little, and I think that's going to be hidden pretty sufficiently, so I'm going to go ahead and give it a little clip very carefully, make sure I don't clip my good stitches there, and that thread is hidden. So I'm just going to need to go back and do a couple more loose strands where I connected the balls of yarn, and then this project is going to be ready to wear very shortly. Let me just give you a view without that strand of some of this lace here. Okay, and I will say that about this cotton yarn, any yarn that has cotton in it or is predominantly cotton like this yarn, it will in time, it's going to fall out a bit. It will stretch a little bit in time, so do know that is the case with this. If this isn't exactly as long as you'd like, give it a week or two, or if you just want to hang it in a closet on a hanger, it will actually fall out due to the weight. Okay, well, this ends the tutorial. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss any more videos that I release in the coming days and coming weeks. God bless everybody. Bye-bye.